Hello, this is Dr. Eric Bricker, and thank you for watching A Healthcare Z. Today's topic is The Hospital by Brian Alexander. So this is a brand new book that just came out in March of this year, 2021. It's 320 pages. I did not read it, but I listened to the audiobook, and it is a 4-hour and 51-minute listen. But I will tell you, whether you buy the book or you listen to the audiobook, it is fantastic. I highly recommend it. I have no connection to Brian Alexander at all. Now, I have a confession to make. When I make A Healthcare Z videos about hospitals, I actually have a fair amount of doubt about all the incriminating evidence against them regarding their prioritization of money and power over patient care. I'm like, that can't be right, because hospitals historically have been the place to alleviate suffering. They've been charitable organizations. They've been these bastions of caring. How in the world could they have these machinations that seem so opposite to what they have historically been and what they oftentimes still portray themselves to be today? I'm like, is that right? All the arm twisting. And according to Brian Alexander in The Hospital, it is. Like, it confirms what I've been saying on A Healthcare Z. It's an incredible confirmatory point. Now, it is the story of CHWC, which is Community Hospitals and Wellness Centers in Western Ohio. It's in a town called Bryan, Ohio, in a place called Williams County, which is in the far northwest corner of Ohio, right next to Michigan. Now, it's a 2-hospital system, so it's a rural hospital. The main hospital in Bryan, Ohio has 50 beds, and then they've got another hospital that's close by that's 25 beds. Okay, so it's like pretty small. So it's the story of this small town hospital and its struggles. But at the end of the book, by the way, it says that, look, the 50-bed hospital is typically only at like 25-person occupancy, and the 25-bed hospital is only at 10-bed occupancy. So I don't want anybody to think that this hospital is like super busy and packed, because it's not. Okay, this book is essentially a hospital administration exposé, a la what like Michael Lewis writes, right? When Michael Lewis wrote Flash Boys or The Big Short or all of his other books about the financial system, and even like baseball, like Moneyball, right? He uses these stories, these true stories, to illustrate a larger point about what's happening, whether it be in the economy or in society. And that's exactly what Brian Alexander does. And I would say that Brian Alexander is like just as good of an author as Michael Lewis, and The Hospital is like just as good as The Big Short or Flash Boys or any other Michael Lewis book. I mean, it's that good. Now, sort of the main thesis, and by the way, Brian Alexander spent like 3 years at Bryan, Ohio. And he had full access to like the board and the CEO. He goes around with Keith, a patient, for multiple years. I mean, this guy did such in-depth research, and his understanding of how hospitals work, at least compared to like how my understanding of how hospital works, again, is incredibly confirmatory. So he's like, look, these hospitals, specifically CHWC and the other hospitals that he researched, they put finances first. They put money first. They are a non-profit hospital whose main focus, the administrators of the hospital's main focus, is on revenue and profit maximization, right? So the board of CHWC, their goal is to remain independent, like almost at all costs. Their charge to the CEO, and the CEO's goal, is to remain independent at all costs and to put themselves on the financial footing to do so. Not once in this book did they say, we're going to do whatever we can that's best for the patients, even if that means merging with another hospital system, right? I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but at no point, and even when they would do like staff updates, it was all about the financials, okay? So, listen, it also portrays, which is a point that I've seen myself, and listen, I have hospital administrators like randomly call me up and like tell me stories from their particular institution. Some of them turn into A Healthcare Z videos, but again, they're confirmatory of all the machinations that I report here on A Healthcare Z. And look, this hospital, Brian Alexander says, look, patients and doctors and nurses are basically clueless pawns on a chessboard that is being orchestrated by these hospital administrators. I'm like, that can't really be the case. And Brian Alexander's book, The Hospital, is like, oh no, that's totally the case. They're just arranging all this stuff on the chessboard, like, and they look at these players like players on a football team, and if they like get hurt or they got a trade to get rid of them, like they're just swapping people out, etc. And they're commoditized, I guess is the word that I would use. Okay, and listen, he talks about the hospital. There's such hospital system competition and rivalries. I mean, here these institutions are trying to save people's lives and alleviate suffering, and they hate each other. Like, they don't even want to talk to each other. They don't want to be even in the same rooms with each other. Like, one of the board members is quoted as saying, I don't even want to shake these people's hands. Okay, so they don't compete on price, right? Healthcare is so expensive. You would think that competition would bring price down, but they never compete on price. Instead, what they do is the Parkview Hospital system in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is close, and then the ProMedica healthcare system, which is in Toledo, which is also close, they basically are gobbling. Brian Alexander explains what we've seen in the news all over the place. They are gobbling up physician practices. They're expanding service lines, whether it be radiation oncology or cardiac services or OBGYN or what have you. They are controlling referral networks and referral patterns from community physicians to their large hospital centers, and they're geographically locating their facilities to be, geographically proximal to patients so they can use them as feeders into their big hospital systems. And this is all done in the name of local monopoly power. It's all done in the name of local monopoly power. Like, not once has it ever said, well, we're really going to increase the quality of patient care by doing this. Or, we're really going to decrease the cost of patient care as a result. Like, not once do they ever say that. Okay, now, this book is super hard to read, or in my case, to listen to. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough listen, right? So, I mean, to a certain extent, this is like a modern day The Jungle by Upton Sinclair and what it did to the food industry. Now, I don't agree with all 320 pages. I don't agree with all 14 hours and 51 minutes. But that's to be expected, right? Who's going to agree with everything that somebody writes in a 320-page book? So, when you read this, you're probably not going to agree with everything either. And that's totally fine. Now, he brings up a serious bright spot that obviously gives us hope, and that is what's called Health Partners of Western Ohio, which was founded and is still run by a woman named Janice Sunderhouse. And, she's like a saint, like she should be a saint. If she's not up for sainthood after she passes away, she should be. Okay, so this place, based in Lima, Ohio, it's got 16 locations throughout Ohio, including in Bryan, where CHWC is, and these are health centers that include primary care, behavioral health services, psych services, substance abuse treatment. They provide prescriptions. They got in-house pharmacy at a discount. They provide social services, and they have dental services. And it's done on a sliding scale depending upon what people can afford. As you can imagine, their biggest payers like Medicaid and Medicare, and they get a little bit of commercial insurance, and then people are just self-pay. They ask them to pay like $10 to show up for a visit. And they are the integrated third-generation primary care medical home for the people of Western Ohio. Now, Janice Sunderhouse doesn't use that terminology, but that's exactly what it is. And she literally pounded the pavement, like knocking on people's doors and would speak to pregnant moms back in the 90s about, like, what did they need? And she created the Health Partners of Western Ohio to, like, give the people of Lima, Ohio, what she found when she was knocking on their doors. And then she expanded it to 16 centers, multi-million-dollar budget. It's unreal. It's the exact, I shouldn't say the exact same approach, it's even better than the primary care approach that's used by Intermountain. That's so effective in Utah. So, and oh, by the way, the hospitals in Ohio, they hate Health Partners of Western Ohio. They hate them. They have no interest in them, and like maybe they've come around or whatever, but like the way that Janice Sunderhouse talks about it, like the hospitals are in no way, shape, or form supporting her or helping her. So, but look, she's doing good against all odds. She's helping people out because in her opinion, she's like, it doesn't matter. You're a person, and because you're a person, you deserve to be helped. So we're going to help you no matter what. So I highly encourage you to read The Hospital by Brian Alexander. Fantastic book. Again, I have no connection to him, but I mean, it confirms all the things that I say here on A Healthcare Z. And like it just makes me even more empowered to bring the truth to you when I see people like Brian Alexander bringing the truth as well. So thank you to him, and thank you to all of you, and thank you for watching A Healthcare Z.